missed today's lesson or maybe got a little lost. So we're talking about conjugate acid and base pairs. So a conjugate base, right? You have the acid gives away a proton, and you're left with the conjugate base. And when you have a base and it takes a proton, right, and it accepts a proton, you are left with the conjugate acid. So let's see what that means. All right, find the conjugate pairs. The way that you start these is by pairing up the ones that look alike, right? So I look and I see that PO4, right? I recognize that in one of the reactants and one of the products, right? And then the other two are paired because there's nothing else to pair up, right? So start with one of the reactants, right? You're not looking at everything all at the same time. You're just looking at one thing. So let's start with H2PO4. So in order for it to become a pair, right, on the other side, so I'm going from here over to here, and I'm looking at the protons, right? I'm looking for my hydrogens, the number of H's. Okay, so here I have 2 hydrogens. Here I have 3 hydrogens. So if I started with 2 and I end up with 3, does that mean I donated an electron, right? Did it donate to get here, or did it accept a proton to get over here, right? So the number of hydrogens increased. Okay, if it increased, it must have accepted a proton, right? And what do we call something that accepts a proton? A base. All right, so now if this is the base, then that means this must be the conjugate acid, okay? Next up, I'm looking at the 2 leftovers that I have. So here I have 2 hydrogens, and here I only have 1. So it must have donated a hydrogen, right? If I start out with 2 t-shirts and I donate 1, right, I'm left over with 1 t-shirt. Here it would be hydrogens. Okay, so what do we call something that donates a proton? An acid, right? So this must be the acid. And if that's the acid, then this must be the conjugate base. All right, so here on my reactant side, I have my base and my acid. And on the other side, I have my conjugate acid and my conjugate base. Now, I want to show you a few mistakes that I've been seeing. So, right, an acid and a base, an acid can only be paired with its conjugate base, right? If you see a base paired with its conjugate base, no, right? Base and a base, wrong, right? Acid with a conjugate acid, wrong, no, right? Base can only be paired with its conjugate acid. Acid can only be paired with its conjugate base. Okay. Right. This is also wrong, right? You cannot have a base and a base, right? There needs to be 1 acid and 1 base on the reactant side, and on the product side, I need to have a conjugate acid and a conjugate base, right? Okay, and the conjugates need to be over here, right? There should not be any conjugate acid, right? Conjugate acid, conjugate base, no conjugates on the left side, right? Only the right side, the products. Okay, and yes, all right. So I think that about covers everything. And as always, if you have any questions, please let me know. All right, I'll leave you on this slide.